Hello from the middle of the Khoroo River. It's frozen, so I'm standing on it, hoping I don't fall through. But it's been about 3 days since we got here on the migration, and we're settled in on the winter pastures right now. And this is where we'll be until mid-March, or at least where I'll be for another 6 weeks before going back to the US for 2 weeks for Christmas, so that my wife doesn't divorce me. So we're pretty much all set up here for the winter. We got our gear set up. I'll show you camp in a second. Here's the direction that we came from. I don't know if you can see in the distance the mountains, but that's the pass that we came through. And now we're settled in this little narrow river valley where all 70 or 80 of the families that are in this area are spending the winter. There's one behind these mountains over here, these hills. There's another group of families in another narrow little river valley that's even narrower than this one, where they spend the winter. We'll be going up there in a few weeks to collect some demographic info and also to start collecting data for the research that I'm doing here, which I'll be making videos on in another couple of days. The different methods that we're using and the different ways we're collecting information, and what we're hoping to accomplish and test here working with herders in this kind of landscape. And hopefully getting me a PhD out of it also. That's an added plus. So we're about as far north as you can possibly go in Mongolia without being in Russia. In fact, if you look in the distance right over there, you'll see a high mountain peak. That mountain's called Mongolian. And the north side of that mountain, so the left side of it, is over the Russian border. So that's how close to Russia we are here. And in fact, we're in a restricted zone where foreigners shouldn't be, but we have special permission from the border military post here to spend the winter here. There's a group of about 13 families living around this area. You can see some of them in that direction, the hashas that they're using, and I'll show you what a winter hasha looks like. And the grazing is all around here, up in these hills and in these flat places behind me, in front of me, to the left and right of me. And so this is where people are spending the winter, and the reason for it is that, I don't know if you can compare it to where we were last time, all the snow. Over here, there's almost no snow at all, even though it's not really as warm as people said it was going to be. It's a little bit warmer than it was in the Darhad Valley where we started on the autumn pastures, but it's really, really windy, and that brings down the temperature. But it gives the benefit that every time it does snow, it very quickly clears the snow out. So you get a lot of exposed grass, and that's good for the livestock because they don't have to dig through it. On the other side of the Darhad Valley, where I showed you a couple of weeks ago, where all that snow was, the snow is about knee deep right now, and here there's not even an inch on the ground. Even though it does snow here, and it has snowed here, this is a much better place to spend the winter just because of the ground exposure. Animals can graze here, but it does get insanely cold. It'll be -30 or -40 in just a couple of days. A couple of weeks. Pretty much January comes around, and then the cold and the wind starts. But right now things are okay. We're all set up, we're ready to go with the research. The migration is still happening. There's still families passing us on a daily basis, and that'll be over in 3 or 4 days. And now I'm coming to an empty winter hasha with one cow sitting by it, and I'll show you what a winter hasha looks like compared to a spring or autumn one that you were seeing the last time. There are already animals sheltering themselves in here, but you could see it's much more covered. It's much more like a bunker, really, that all of the animals, the cows, this one is probably for cows rather than sheep and goats, just by looking at what's on the floor in here. Meaning there's cow crap on the floor, not sheep and goat crap. And this side, let me get out of the sun so you can see it, this side is for the sheep and the goats. But you can see how well sheltered it is. All of the animals during the night will go into those shelters, and that shelters them from the wind. So if we go inside there right now, I guarantee we'll be out of the wind and it'll be a whole lot warmer inside. And I just want to check it out to see. But this is a really, really well made one. The one in our camp is not as well made because it's not for as many animals as this one is. So hopefully you can see with the light in here. But it's like a little cave in here where the animals go. And they'll spend the night in here. And if you look at the walls are covered with cow shit, for lack of better words. The reason for that is that if you just use these wooden pieces, then wind can get through, air can get through, snow can get through, and the cold can get through. But if you shove cow crap in all of the holes in the wood, it makes it much more windproof. And honestly, I don't know if you heard the wind. I had to yell when I was outside just so that the camera would pick up the noise of me talking over the wind. But it's probably 15 degrees, 20 degrees warmer in here just because I'm out of the wind. And there's really no wind or airflow in here at all. So this wouldn't be a bad place for animals to hunker down during the night and get out of the elements. So when it's negative 40 out there, combined with all of their body heat, with being out of the wind and out of the snow, if it is snowing, it'll probably be, probably above zero, really, inside here, combined with everything, all of the different factors. So this is the difference of what people are using during this season, because this season is all about keeping the animals out of the elements to keep them alive. Now, it smells like crap in here, so I'm going to get out, but this is what the view from outside the fence looks like. You can see how deep it is in here and how many little pockets there are in here for the animals to go in. So they can stay in here, and if it gets really cold, especially for the younger animals, they can go in there, the pregnant animals. So maintaining these things is a real difficult thing to do, just because you have to constantly make sure they're still windproof, and because the animals are living in them, they're peeing and crapping in them, and you have to clear all of that stuff out on a daily basis just to make sure it doesn't freeze and take heat out of the animals as they lay on it. And here's some of the crap that people cleared out probably in a previous season that's just drying there in the sun. And you can use that as fuel at night because it burns really slow and it burns really hot. So you throw a bunch of cow crap or dried cow crap in your stove at night and it keeps you warm for a couple of hours. Gross, I know, but when it's minus 40, well, you'd probably burn your own crap to stay warm, frankly. So I'm going to walk up. This is another family's camp who's not here yet. I'd imagine they're very closely related to the family we're staying with because they're right next to them. Here's a yak running out that was just kind of hanging out in here to stay out of the wind. But the animals are all out grazing on this exposed grass right now. Here comes another one of my friends. His name is Shunker, which means hawk in Mongolian. And he came on the whole migration with us. Ran alongside us in the snow and the wind and everything. It's a good dog. I want to steal him and take him home with me, to be honest. But now we're walking into Bimba's camp, which is up on a hill here. And just like the other camp, there's a wood supply. We have to go up into the forest over the next couple of weeks and collect firewood for both us and the family. A random puppy came in here today. I think that belongs to one of the other families, but he's really constantly tries to bite your ankles to play with you when you walk around. This is the camp. The gear is more reinforced. We put snow around the edges of it to keep it out of the wind, keep the wind from getting under it. Satellite dish is up. There's a storage cabin, like in the other camps, where you would really use it to hang meat. this time of the year to keep it frozen. And here's our little gare that's back up again. Really warm at night. Too warm, in fact, sometimes. And here's puppy driving me crazy. Here's Bimba's family's Hasha. And it's not as big and not as reinforced yet as the other families that we just came from. But he's also, I want to show you something else that people rely on, especially later on in the winter when animals are pregnant. Oh man, this wind is cold. There's also a hay supply here. This is supposed to get us through half the winter, and then Bimba's family has another hay supply that they use closer to the spring. But this is the hay that you use to feed the animals when things get really harsh during the winter. And you give that to the animals selectively. It's not something that you give to every single animal. They break animals up into 3 different categories. Ones that are strong enough to graze on their own, all out here. So those animals out there right now are totally fine for grazing. They're strong enough to do it, and they can get the nutrition they need just from grazing on the natural grassland that's here. Then there's another category of animals that can graze but are a little weaker, or maybe they're pregnant and they need a supplementary source of fodder, so they feed them that hay. And then there are the younger animals, or the late-term pregnancy animals that are much weaker, that need a constant source of hay every single day. So later on in the winter when they start doing that, I'll show you it. Dogs are always fighting, or playing rather. I don't think they're fighting. Definitely want to take one of those home with me. But that's what camp is like right now. If you go in this direction, right at the base of that mountain is the northern shore of Lake Khoroo, which is the biggest freshwater lake in Mongolia. And about 100, maybe 200 kilometers northeast of that is Lake Baikal, which is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world, in Russia. But so if you drive in that direction, you get to a border town, and we're going to have to go there in another couple of weeks to get registered with the border troops there again. And that'll be the way that we go, because we won't be able to go back in that direction to get out of here. In December, we're going to have to drive in this direction, drive around Lake Khoroo to a little tourist town called Khatgal, where there's flush toilets and heated rooms and hot showers and internet and things like that. We're pretty out of it here. We're pretty remote right now. And that'll get us out to the capital on a paved road, and that's how I'll fly out. But right now we're hunkered down in here, and we're going to spend the next couple of weeks doing as much data collection as possible, because things with the migration and all moved so slow. And now we have to play a little bit of catch up to get my project rolling. So that should be fun though. We've already started, and it's been really interesting so far. So anyway, I'll catch up with you soon. Hope you're having a good one. Take it easy.